Let's go back in time a little bit. Let's go back to a couple of days before the PCA is released, and we learn some details that we didn't know when Bryan Kohberger was arrested. Now, this is a TikTok somebody made of Annie Elise, and she hosts the show 10 to Life. And here she's talking about some sort of insider information she received from a friend's husband, a friend of a friend whose husband is an FBI agent associated with the case. And I know we have the friend of the friend thing. I know. But when you hear what she's about to say, which I'm sure many of you already have, but she got some insider information. And I need to make clear this is before the PCA came out.
Because until this is officially tied back to the affidavit once it's released, it is all alleged at this point. But this message says, my sister's best friend from college is married to an FBI agent. He was one of the first FBI agents allowed at the scene in Moscow. Apparently, the murderer's knife sheath was found under the body of Ethan. They were able to find DNA on the sheath and sent it to 23andMe. A cousin of the killer, aka Bryan, has done 23andMe, so they were able to somehow then link it to Bryan. That, plus a cat, happened to be taking a pee and set off a nearby Ring camera, which is where they were able to see the Hyundai Elantra, which of course the suspected killer drove. They then tracked him to Pennsylvania, where he was home on winter break with family, and agents posed as garbage men and went through the family's garbage to find DNA and confirm the DNA match. From the text message my sister received from the FBI agent, apparently it is one of the most gruesome crime scenes he's ever been a part of.
Now, I'm going to issue a very big trigger warning because she's about to give some rather grisly details about the case or about the murders.
Ethan's legs were sliced all the way down to the hamstrings. One of the girls was stabbed 54 times and beaten so badly that every bone in her face was broken and so sunken in that she was unrecognizable. One of the cops said that one of the girls in the basement who survived went by the staircase and she thought it was Ethan and yelled at him to shut the fuck up, but it was actually the killer. The killer then left after he saw her, but she didn't know it was him, though, at the time.
So, remember, before the PCA came out, before we knew anything about the sheath being left behind. Just keep that in mind. So we know that there was the DNA on the sheath. That ended up being true. We know that the sheath was found underneath one of the victims' bodies. It wasn't Ethan, but it was Maddie's. That turned out to be true. We learned in that book that I spoke about last week, While Idaho Slept, where he mentions that he was told, or investigators said, that one of the victims had suffered overkill, which was where the suspect continues to stab even after the victim is dead. And so we hear about Kaylee being stabbed 53 times and being beaten so badly that she was unrecognizable. Now remember, I want you guys to remember something from the PCA. This line always stuck out to me in the PCA. The bedroom on the west side of the floor was later determined to be Kaylee Gonzalez, hereafter Gonzalez room. Later determined. And the parents were informed later. They were like the last informed, weren't they? Which would make sense if Kaylee had been so badly beaten, she was unrecognizable. That could explain why it took her family so long to be notified, which is an absolutely horrific thought and really does align with what her father said in the 48 Hours documentary. He said that she had been trying to escape and that she had been assaulted and attacked. So we're learning now that so far, a significant amount of the stuff that Annie found out from her friend of a friend in the FBI, it sounds like the information was accurate. I still don't know about Ethan and the legs. However, as I said in an earlier video, I believe that the outline of that body on that mattress was absolutely Ethan. And I believe now, and I didn't before, that this very well may have been done to Ethan's legs to make sure he couldn't get up. But now let's talk about the one I really want to talk about, which is the first floor roommate allegedly looking up from the bottom of the stairs and screaming, "Shut the fuck up." Annie said that the roommate, when she yelled "shut the fuck up," thought it was Ethan, but it was actually the killer. She thought that the man in the mask was Ethan. So the surviving roommate got to the bottom of the stairs, yelled up, "Shut the fuck up." She apparently saw someone that she thought was Ethan because Annie says he saw her and he left. She saw somebody that she thought was Ethan. I want you to remember that. Now, we know that the sheath was found under Maddie, right? And we know that one of the victims suffered overkill, and it's sounding like it was Kaylee. We don't know what's going on with Ethan's legs. But we do know that one of the roommates saw the suspect. See, remember when we were talking earlier about how they never said why Dylan opened the door for the third time. And now it's starting to sound like she opened the door for the third time to say, "Shut the fuck up," because she heard noise. What if it wasn't the surviving roommate on the first floor? See, at that point, we thought both of the surviving roommates were still asleep on the first floor. It wasn't until the PCA came out that we realized one of that roommate was on the second floor. So what if it wasn't Bethany on the first floor that looked up the staircase? Because remember, we assume both of them were on the first floor. What if the roommate, to shout up the stairs, not actually shout up the stairs, but shout outside their door, "Shut the fuck up," and saw someone that she thought was Ethan? What if that's Dylan? What if when Dylan opened the door and she saw somebody walking towards her, probably in a balaclava or some kind of mask, in a dark suit, in the dark? What if Dylan thought that person was Ethan? And that's why she didn't call 911. We do know that in the PCA, Dylan, this is how they explain who Dylan thought she saw. So we know Dylan went into her room and locked her door after seeing the mail. And then they say this: DM did not state that she recognized the mail. What they're saying is she did not offer up the information that she didn't recognize this person. Which makes me wonder, did they ask her? Because if they didn't ask her, then why not? And I would think that the only reason they didn't ask her that is because she told them, "I thought it was Ethan." They wouldn't ask her if she recognized the person if she offered an answer before they asked. "I thought it was Ethan." So now they're being tricky with the words here. She did not state that she recognized the male. She didn't say she recognized him. See, to me, that says that she said something like, I don't know, I thought maybe it was Ethan, because similar builds, and people might say, oh, not really. But remember, according to that Bloom article, there were some overalls, like a one-piece overall. Let's take a look at that for a second. Now, if he was wearing something like this, right? This is a long sleeve navy blue work uniform. He might look a little thicker, might look a little heavier. It might add some weight because this is it's so boxy. And if he were wearing, I don't know, these shoes like the ones that are on here, that might add, I don't know, maybe an inch in terms of height. So he could have looked, that's why she said she doesn't specify 5'10" or taller. That could have made a 6 foot tall Bryan, maybe 6'1". And in the middle of the night in the dark, we don't know. Does she wear contacts? We don't know. Could she have thought that the person leaving was Ethan? And that maybe when she opened the door, maybe he was wearing a mask and she was that startled because like, oh, who, for that moment, not really thinking about it. Not thinking, oh my God, I'm terrified, but more like, wait, who is that? And then going back into her room, thinking, oh, the crying. Oh, I'm going to help you. Oh, what if what if Ethan and Xana had a fight? What if the thud was, maybe he punched a wall? Maybe she fell down and then maybe she went to her room and the door was closed and she couldn't get in. And that's a whole other thing that I want to talk about in another video about why I think Xana was probably blocking the door. What if Dylan thought the man in the mask leaving that was wearing dark clothes? What if she just thought it was Ethan leaving? What if she just thought that Ethan and Xana had a fight? And that's why she didn't call 911. And again, show me some sort of proof that there was screaming. Don't tell me, oh, there must have been screaming. I want to hear it. Show me the proof. Show me anything that supports that. But as of right now, all an audio device picked up was whimpers and a thud. Or whimpers, what could have been a voice or a whimper. Voices or a whimper. How do you, it's very difficult. How do you not distinguish between the two if you're screaming? Right? How do you not distinguish between the two if which means there likely wasn't any, at least not what that camera picked up. I don't know. You tell me. Because that would make sense, wouldn't it? That she thought it was Ethan and that maybe him and Xana had a fight. And so maybe she goes to the room and the door is closed and she can't get in and she wakes up the next morning, goes to Xana's room to see if she's okay. Maybe they had a fight, whatever. Maybe she smells something, knocks, texts. Maybe then, didn't someone say that they thought Ethan's alarm went off in the room and they're like, wait a minute. If he's in there, who left? Who was here? She thought it was Ethan. See, I dismissed so much of that Annie Elise bit at first because I thought they got a couple things wrong, but there were things we didn't know. She thought that's what she says in her insider tip. She thought it was Ethan. That would explain why Dylan didn't call 911. All right. Tell me what you think in the comments, and I'll be back. Bye.